Generation 5 had many firsts for the Pokemon franchise. Whether it be the controversial exclusive regional Pokédex during the base game of Pokemon Black and White, or the first Pokemon region based outside of Japan, there was a lot for Pokemon fans to indulge in. However, I argue that the largest change present in Generation 5 would be the introduction of the complex and dark philosophy of Team Plasma. Ever since Generation 1, evil teams in Pokemon slowly evolved from nothing more than a ragtag organization consisting of grunts and a leader, with simple goals of stealing Pokemon for wealth, to much more than that. Game Freak slowly built the confidence to have more complex characters with dynamic and intriguing plot lines. This built up to what I believe to be the absolute pinnacle of Pokemon evil organizations and Team Plasma. Game Freak finally decided to address the so-called elephant in the room when it came to the entire formula of Pokemon and other monster capture games. This perspective, which I think many can agree with, was not one many were expecting to ever be incorporated into Pokemon games at all, especially with Pokemon being marketed as a children's game. However, this is exactly what makes Team Plasma so interesting and complex. This type of subtle darkness is exactly what many wanted to see in games, especially with an aging original fanbase from when the Generation 1 games were released. Personally, N is one of, if not my favorite characters in the entire franchise. His background and introduction throughout the plot of both Generation 5 games is unrivaled. Slowly pulling back the layers throughout the story and seeing why N has his beliefs intrigues any fan and makes the evil team plotline a highlight, being woven into the main story instead of a bothersome side quest. Ever since Generation 5, it seems that evil organizations have slowly become more of a joke and a disturbance than an actual organization with clear leadership. Teams like Team Skull, Team Yell, and Team Star are a far cry from the masterly written story of Team Plasma and lack the complexity that many of the more mature audience of Pokemon games craves. Today, I'll be talking about the mastery of Team Plasma and how their philosophies and identity will never be replicated again in a Pokemon game. Also quickly, be sure to subscribe and comment. I'll be replying to every comment and you'll have a chance to have a Pokemon named after you in an upcoming video. Team Plasma is a villainous organization based in the Unova region with a unique and ambitious goal: to liberate all Pokemon from their trainers. They use various methods to achieve this, from outright Pokemon theft to subtly convincing trainers to release their Pokemon. A key example of this can be seen early in Pokemon Black and White, when the player stops Team Plasma Grunts from harassing Amuna for his Dream Mist, which they plan to use to infiltrate people's dreams and persuade them to release their Pokemon. What makes Team Plasma stand out is its complexity. The organization has many leaders, admins, and multiple base locations. Key figures include Ghetsis, N, Zinzalin, and Colress, while the 7 Sages and Shadow Triad serve as the group's primary admins throughout the story. At the center of Team Plasma's leadership is the unique relationship between N and Ghetsis. N, originally an orphan raised in the wilderness with only Pokemon as companions, developed the ability to understand Pokemon on a deeper level. This caught the attention of Ghetsis, one of the 7 Sages and the true mastermind behind Team Plasma. Ghetsis adopted N and manipulated him by showing him only Pokemon that had been mistreated by their trainers, reinforcing N's belief that humans and Pokemon should live separately. Over time, Ghetsis groomed N to become the king of Team Plasma, while secretly pursuing his own agenda of domination. N's goal throughout Pokemon Black and White is to befriend the legendary dragon of Unova to achieve this vision of separation. This complex dynamic between N and Ghetsis, along with the intricate structure of Team Plasma, sets them apart from any other evil organization in the Pokemon series. Their backstory and motivations are far more compelling than the more recent, less developed villain teams. N's philosophy and his actions throughout the game stem from a place of genuine concern for Pokemon. This is what makes him such a compelling character. Unlike most antagonists in previous games who simply acted out of greed or desire for power, N doesn't see himself as evil. He truly believes that he's acting in the best interest of Pokemon by separating them from humans. His conversations with the player often present an ethical dilemma, pushing the player to reflect on their relationship with their own Pokemon. This introspection is something that was never really explored in Pokemon games before Generation 5, and it added layers of moral complexity that really elevated the story. What's especially fascinating is how N contrasts with Ghetsis. He wants to create a world where Pokemon are free from human control, believing this to be the best path forward. Meanwhile, Ghetsis is manipulative, cruel, and entirely selfish. Ghetsis doesn't actually care about Pokemon at all. He only cares about power. This dynamic between N and Ghetsis is a masterclass in storytelling, because it allows for a layered and intricate villain organization where not every character within it is evil for the same reasons. As players progress through Pokemon Black and White, they begin to see how the ideology of Team Plasma is flawed. N's initial belief that all Pokemon are suffering in their partnership with humans is challenged as the player and other characters demonstrate the mutual bond between humans and Pokemon. This is evident when N begins to question his own beliefs after seeing how much the player's Pokemon cared for them, especially in the moments leading up to the final battle. This internal conflict adds depth to N's character and elevates him far beyond a traditional villain. In fact, N isn't really a villain at all. He serves more as an anti-hero, driven by a notable cause that has been twisted by the manipulation of Ghetsis. This makes N's story one of redemption rather than defeat. After the events of Pokemon Black and White, we see that N isn't vanquished, but rather goes on a journey of self-discovery, realizing that Pokemon and humans can coexist in harmony. This This narrative of growth and change for an antagonist is practically unheard of in previous Pokemon games, and is a testament to the sophistication of Team Plasma's storyline. When Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 were released, fans were given an entirely new perspective on Team Plasma. In these sequels, Team Plasma fractures into two distinct factions, one led by N, who now seeks to repair the damages caused by Ghetsis, and the other led by Ghetsis, who is still pursuing his original power-hungry goals. This split further demonstrates the complexity of Team Plasma as an organization. Not only do we see a rare instance of a former antagonist, N, seeking redemption, but we also see how a villainous organization can evolve and adapt over time, rather than simply being defeated and forgotten like Team Rocket's dismembered state in Generation 2. The reformation of Team Plasma under N's leadership provides a fresh take on the concept of an evil organization in Pokemon. N's faction is no longer evil in the traditional sense. They're actively working to undo the harm caused by their previous actions. On the other hand, Ghetsis' faction becomes even more dangerous and extremist, now with the goals of freezing the entire Unova region using the power of Kyurem. This ideological split within Team Plasma is unlike anything seen before in the Pokemon series, where evil teams typically dismember after their defeat. Team Plasma's impact on the Pokemon series cannot be overstated. Their introduction challenged players to think critically about the relationship between humans and Pokemon, and they delivered a level of depth and nuance that has never been seen in an antagonist group before. Even the games that followed, like Pokemon X and Y with Team Flare or Sun and Moon with Team Skull, haven't been able to replicate the same level of philosophical depth or narrative complexity. Team Plasma stands apart not just because of their ambitions, but because of the moral questions they pose to players. While subsequent evil teams have leaned more into the goofier comedic side of villainy, Team Plasma will be remembered as a team that asked us to think about the very nature of the Pokemon world. Their story, especially with characters like N and Ghetsis at the helm, gave fans of the series a storyline that transcended the traditional good versus evil narrative and ventured into the realm of ethical dilemmas. Team Plasma's complexity, coupled with N's internal conflict and Ghetsis' manipulative nature, marks them as the peak of villainous organizations in Pokemon. The moral questions they raise, the emotional depth of their storyline, and the redemption arc of N all contribute to a narrative that is far more sophisticated than anything the franchise had attempted before, and arguably since. While we've had other memorable teams since then, none have come close to achieving the balance of philosophy, character development, and stakes like Team Plasma did in Pokemon Black and White and the sequels. If you agree that Team Plasma will never be topped, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be replying to every comment like I said before, and let's get a discussion going on your favorite moments from Pokemon Black and White and why you think Team Plasma's story still resonates with fans today. I'll see you all soon, thanks for watching.